Hi Rob. So thanks for sending the swings across and making the purchase. So we'll go through the backswing first of all, and then why you kind of get the shaft steep on the way down. No sort of lag, if you want to call it that, on the way through, and just just picking our way through why it's why there's issues on the downswing. Pretty much stem from the initial takeaway really. So if we look at your swing first of all, from an initial setup, and initially, not going to go down the lines of alignment or anything like that. So I don't know where you're aligning here, but let's leave that for now. But in terms of initial setup, fine. I've got no problems at all with that. Pretty good, I would say. Where it starts to break down now is as we move into the backswing. Just a little one here, so where you set up with the ball. So you can see the ball's pretty much set up in the heel of the club here. Just basic old school golf coaching. Let's get it set in the middle of the club, because that's where we're trying to hit. We don't want to be aiming it off the heel. So as you move from position 1, which is set up, into position 2, why do you get the club flat, as you call it? So from here, there's no rotation in the lower body whatsoever. There's no rotation in the chest at all. So what happens then is, because there's no rotation, you have to start creating depth or inwardness, if you like, with the head. Because if you didn't, you'd literally just swing the club up to the top of your head here. So if we go from a model swing on the right hand side, you can see from position 1 to 2, it's very much the body that creates the sort of movement of the arms, moving to a little bit more on the inside. So if we go position 2, which is where the shaft is parallel to the ground, you can see that already he's started to create depth. So the lead arm moves in of a 90-degree angle, and it's not so much with you that you need to move the arms more in, it's effectively you need to get the body to rotate. So this is both with lower body, and then effectively that releases the chest, and you should start to get the hands, so that the hands start to sit a little bit more in here. Okay, so we don't want this big space, as you can see there. Okay, so initial kind of feeling is we need to get the sort of belt buckle to move behind, which in turn then starts to allow the chest to rotate. So because of this, and both these sort of elements stay still, in order for you to create leverage and get the club swinging to the top, and actually get the club moving, you really start to use the right arm as your first lever, in effect, instead of the wrist angle. So when we move you to a position of lead arm parallel to the ground on the way back, which is what we call position 3, the angle of the shaft looks really flat, because there's virtually no sort of wrist set whatsoever. If you look at this one, so again at 3, generally we're looking for the shaft to point inside of the ball. Again, with yours, still virtually no sort of rotational movement whatsoever. At this point now, you start to creep it in. The right arm sort of goes back and behind you. And then from here, it looks, obviously you've got the club in what you'd call sort of a very laid off position at the top. The problem is from there now, because there's no real rotation at all with the hips or the upper body, what's going to happen is, as you pull the hands down, you can see how the club head effectively wants to kick out and get in front of the hands. So when you go to this position here, you can see the head passes out in front of the hands. This really is your biggest issue. The movement from the top of the swing here, what we're trying to get is we're trying to get the head of the club to effectively fall behind, and all the time here you can see how the angle of the head, or the balance point, is staying behind the hands right the way through into that position here. Yeah, and even with this one, he's just trying to play a little fade here. The flag is actually over here somewhere. Oh, it's there. So it's not even like he's trying to play a big draw on this position, on this swing, sorry. So why this is caused, again, is because you have no rotation, so you then throw the club inside. Because you still can't turn here, you bend the right arm. So the club looks like it's in a reasonable position, but because everything is just so tight across your chest and your right arm is behind you on the way down now, to get that arm back in front, you can see how your hands then pass your right arm. So at this point here now, you can see the difference between your right arm and his right arm. So if you look at the difference in these two here versus this one, this is stuck behind and down the side of your body. Here it's clearly in front of his body. Because of your backswing, this is why you're in this position. And again, even at this point here, if you stopped it on a camera, which we've got here, the plane of the shaft looks really nice, and you think, right, that's great. But what you obviously can't see on a 2D camera is how fast now that club is going to kick out, and effectively, you know, you're going to get dangerously close there to the hosel. You'll do all sorts of funky movements. So even if we put you on TrackMan, you'd have quite what's called quite a high vertical swing plane, again, because you're trying to save it. All sorts of crazy things start to come in, you know, early extension, you start to move forward. But really keeping it simple, we're trying to stop that head kicking out in front of the hands. So again, anything initially, we're trying to look at sort of redesigning the backswing, really being honest. So at this point here, if you can effectively release your body, open the chest, the arms can sit a little bit lower here. Again, you won't need to bend your right arm. So again, as soon as you start to bend the right arm, the hands start to pick up. So again, the sequence is just out, really. And then any sort of drills with external rotation in the right arm, anything like that, that will help. But I think really, I did notice on when you paid for the lesson that you're only based over in the Wirral. So what I was going to suggest is, if you want to come over for a session, I mean, it's probably 30-40 minute drive, but I'm more than happy to do an hour's lesson at £30. Obviously, I've got you know, you've paid for an online lesson. So being really honest, that's probably the best way to sort of get over the problem. But even if you can get a way of keeping this balance point from kicking out so fast and moving this way, that is ultimately what you're trying to do, you know. Again, it's probably not the best position for you to be in here at the top, although it looks very laid off. It just gives you that feeling of as you move the hands down, it's going to fire out and in front of you. But hopefully that's giving you a little bit of an insight into where you need to go. As I say, initially it's just restructuring the backswing to allow you on the way down, again, if I show you this one, how the head of the club effectively stays and trails and trails and trails and trails behind right the way into that position there. Because you lose it here, it just makes it really difficult to get a strike. So yeah, hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into what's going on. Absolutely any questions at all, just let me know, or feel free to give me a call as well. And obviously, if you want to pop up and take advantage of that offer, more than happy to do that for you.